Damn it.
Hello, and welcome to the Comic Book Communicast, the official podcast of the Google Plus comic book community. This is issue number 43 for the week of July 30th, 2014. I'm Justin Beeson, and tonight I'm joined by co-host Sarah Evans, who may be behind a lag wall. Hi, Sarah.
Maybe. Hi.
Not too bad. Each week we take a look at our pull list and pick the comic that we were most excited to read first. We review it here, whether it's good or bad, and then later in the show we'll go over significant issues and news from the past week, which, last weekend was Comic-Con, so a bit to talk about there. So let's get right into it. Oh, and I guess I should mention that Aaron and Paul will be have a little bit of spotty attendance over the next couple weeks. Aaron is busy with some productions for his theater, and Paul is off spawning little Paul babies. So he's got his daddy
technically
duties
that's
to do.
already happened.
So
now he's got to deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. So he'll pop in if he can. So let's get right into this week's comics. Sarah, what was your first pick?
My first pick this week would have been Owlgirls #1, which is a new series that's coming out from a relatively unknown company, which I completely forget, so as evidenced. Obviously, I don't have the comic here in front of me because I wasn't able to get the comic because nobody knows about it, so apparently no one was ordering it, which is a shame, in my opinion. Because as far as I can tell, and as far as online reviews today have told me, the premise is a lot like Girl Detectives set in 1945, urban area, three sisters solving crimes and helping the police and finding murders and things like that. But also they're owls. Like everyone else in the comic looks normal, but these three heroines have the faces of owls. Not the hair, mind you. They still have lovely bouffant hair, but owl faces. So apparently it's not. It's more drama and less humor than I would expect from a series like this, according to other reviews. I'll have to see how that goes when I can actually get my hands on it. So that's my little blurb. Sorry. But what I did get this week. Is Harley Quinn #8, and this is something I've actually started pulling recently, which was kind of big for me because I haven't traditionally been a huge, salivating Harley Quinn fan, and I am on the outs with DC for various editorial decisions over the past few years, but this is one series that has managed to be really, really good, despite all of my expectations. I didn't want to like it. I like Amanda Conner, but I was kind of hoping it would tank. But every issue is so entertaining. It starts off very, honestly, it reminded me of a scene Gail Simone wrote for Secret Six, where Catman and Deadshot walk into a convenience store, stop me if you've heard this one, and continue to purchase their items and steal themselves in the middle of it being held up by some white supremacists, and then go back in and kill everybody. But issue begins with Harley negotiating with a pawn shop owner friend of another friend of hers, Tony, and a couple of armed thugs come in to rob the place while she's in there, and she continues negotiating while kicking the crap out of them. And it's just, every issue is kind of like that, and it's very entertaining. I mean, this one wasn't really even about anything in particular. It was Harley foils a pawn shop robbery and comes out on top. Harley gets kicked out of her roller derby girls league, but also gets to kick the crap out of someone who really deserved it. And essentially what this issue culminated in, which was I think the entire point of this filler issue, was Harley builds a giant catapult on the roof of her apartment building and flings giant trash bags full of animal crap at DC editorial. And it was beautiful and meaningful, and I haven't been this emotionally impacted by any comic in a long, long time. Just, it was pretty great, Dan Didio and all, even with a little spoof. They're in the DC universe their editorials launching the new 52, starring wildlife versions of the Justice League, and right before about 1,000,000 pounds of dog crap hit their windows. And it's beautiful, and it's tongue-in-cheek. The art continues to be amazing. Like I said, Amanda Connor and also Jim Palmiotti are co-writing, and they've got, what's his first name again? That little Dickens. I love that guy. Sure. Chad Harden doing art, and it's really good art. It's awesome. Like, it's been consistently great. That's one of the things I also love about this series, that they've had a good, consistent artist on it, because how many DC series can say that? So, yeah, the other issue that I was pulling for this 2 weeks, last week I intended to cover Storm #1, but somehow it did not find its way into my inbox, so I'm 0 for 2. But in its place, Red Sonja #0 is a one-shot that came out this week, and it's kind of just a random spin-off about some nice guy punk going around in Sonja's absence telling people that they're married and basically taking advantage of the perks that marriage to her would socially offer. And she comes home and is obviously not happy about that. But it's less bloody for him than I hoped it would be. Honestly, I kind of wanted to see this guy suffer, even if they didn't have a big, sappy ending with him dying tragically to protect her. It wasn't satisfying for me. I just wanted her to punch him a lot. I feel like it was kind of out of place with the feel of the rest of this comic, which has basically been drinking and sex and being on the road and smelling like you've been on the road and Red Sonja beating up people. And so I was kind of disappointed by this issue, but it still has a very Simone flavor with the dialogue, even though the art, I think definitely the artist on this one, who was Noah Salonga, this issue, it took a bit of a downturn compared to the rest of what we've had so far, in my opinion. But yeah, those were my two. Justin?
Cool. So my first pick this week normally would be Sandman Overture #3 because it's 3 months coming or whatever it is. I hear it's worth the wait. I'm looking forward to reading it. However, I wanted to talk about Uncanny X-Men #24 because this is the issue with Dazzler on the cover and her whole redesign. And what happens? The story's so big that she's in the book for 2 to 3 panels, I think, and nobody even says anything. They don't even acknowledge that she looks any different. It's kind of funny.
Wow.
Oh.
Hey, Justin?
Of course, we're getting some lag.
Sorry, I think I lost you for a second there. It just froze over for like 10 seconds. My bad.
All right. So,
The last I heard was it's kind of funny, actually.
okay, what, like, we were talking about before the show, and the way you put it was perfect. Like, what? Oh, kind of funny how they didn't mention the costume change or anything. And we were talking before the show, and you had a comment about it that I thought was perfect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you want to repeat it.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, the lag is working against us again. But yeah, I'll just go into it. Basically, like, when you go to the salon or the barber shop and you get a new hairstyle and you change a few things and you're walking around all day not saying anything, so somebody's going to notice and nobody says anything and it kind of hurts your feelings a little bit. It's kind of like that, only she shaved off like 80% of her hair and dyed the rest of it black and dressed in the contents of a lost and found bin from the 90s, and nobody says anything. And I think it's just that the X costumes have reached a level of ridiculousness to which everyone's completely apathetic with everyone else's costumes by now. It's not even worth commenting on. It's like, oh, hey, there's Allison. Where'd her hair go? Who cares?
And Bendis, this is like the second time Bendis has been pretty guilty about this, because they make such a big deal about something happening in a comic and then it doesn't happen. So like the last time this happened was like Guardians of the Galaxy 14 or 15, and this big Carol Danvers cover, and she's nowhere to be seen in the comic. So he does it again. But anyways, I mean, the issue overall was good. This is continuing the story of them finding Charles Xavier's will, and so they have to go and get Scott, and they're all just like, everybody's still pissed at him, and they all think that Xavier is going to leave Scott the Jean Grey school, in his will, because obviously Xavier wouldn't expect that Scott would be the one to kill him. So they go round him up and bring him back, and it's this whole big drama. It's really good, and then the last page they reveal the beginning of his will, and you're just like, what? I don't want to spoil it, but it's believable because they planted some seeds in the last few episodes or actually in the last story arc, with some new characters that were introduced, but still it was definitely a WTF moment. But yeah, so, and with the Dazzler change, it's even more funny because, I can understand the Scott X-Men not saying anything because they've been around her, but they go to the Xavier school, and none of the other X-Men say anything either. I mean, I know they're there to read, Xavier's will, but it's still just kind of funny that that it's this big thing and it's not, whatever. So I'm sure we'll hear about it in a couple issues once they're done dealing with the Xavier stuff. Oh, and
where
I should
are
mention
the students? Like, I would love to see. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I mean, in these books, they don't really. Uncanny X-Men deals with the Scott students, but the All New X-Men doesn't really. They don't deal with the students all that much.
Pesky kids.
Yeah.
They're just a plot device, right?
In these books, pretty much, they don't get a whole lot of page time. And I should mention the artist on this is Chris Anka, something like that. His art's really good. It's a very fluid style, like
minimalist.
Yeah. I like it a lot though. I mean, this book is usually consistently good with their artists. Bendis picks some pretty great collaborators. So my second book, I actually want to talk about a book from last week that because we missed. It's the Midas Flesh #8. It's a mini-series, and I've talked about it before. It's kind of flown under the radar by the Adventure Time team, so writer Ryan North, artists Brain Lamb and Shelley Pereline, something like that. And basically the premise was, Dionysus comes down to Earth, gives King Midas the touch of gold, so everything he turns to gold. However, they take it one step further and say that includes like everything else. So he basically turns the whole Earth and everything on it to gold, and it turns into a dead planet. And so then the story picks up thousands of years in the future, where these three people, 2 girls and a dinosaur or a raptor, are kind of in an oppressed society where there's like this big federation, that's kind of tyrannical, and so they hear about this massive weapon that's on this forgotten planet, and so basically they go to retrieve Midas so they can use that as a weapon against the Federation. And it's been a great series. The last issue saw them almost meeting certain doom because the guy from the Federation flung King Midas into the sun of whatever universe they were in and blew it up and basically destroyed a whole universe. And then the last issue ended with just bits and pieces of King Midas coming towards them, so they're about to, go away. And I can't once again, like this is the complete ending, so it really should read this, and something stops that from happening, and it's kind of completely out of left field, but it fits. And they go on this whole little like mini journey and come back to it, and it's really good. Like I've said many times before, Ryan North, he has that really wordy, kind of cutesy writing style, but it really fits with this. And the art team of Lamb and Paroline, it's very, the colors are very vibrant, and they blend, like the palette is amazing. And the characters are a bit cartoony because it's kind of an all ages comic, but it's very strong lines, and it's really good looking book. So yeah, I definitely recommend picking this up when it goes to trade or whatever, or buying it digitally. Really, really good. So yeah, those were my comics. Sarah, you mentioned you didn't have much else for this week. Were there any from last week?
Well, I had a couple other things. I haven't really rated my wife's pull box to its fullest extent yet, but I did steal Saga so that I could see that from last week. I'm sure it's old news by now, but it's kind of a continuation of several plot lines like Marco and the flirty dance instructor, and Alana and drugs, and the crazy janitor who kidnapped Prince Robot's baby. And so obviously there's a lot of action going on. I'm just disappointed that we have yet to see more Lying Cat, but I guess she'll show up eventually. And so there was Saga, Deadpool versus X-Force #2, which is a cute little mini-series. Kind of interesting. It's just Domino, Warpath, Boom Boom, Cannonball, and Cable before they were X-Force, so I guess that's their excuse for like leaving out all of the other characters like Sunspot and Richter and Shatterstar and Feral and oh my gosh, all these kids. But basically it's like, oh, these are the mutants that Cable would one day pick for his team X-Force, and of course Deadshot, God, Deadpool, you know what I mean. You all know what I mean. He's very tongue-in-cheek about it, like there's some kind of militaristic X-Force. Hey, get the Marvel editors on the line. That sounds like it could sell, or something like that. So it continues to be kind of cute and gimmicky, plus 90s costumes. Just X-Men, continuing the plot with Jubilee's baby being kidnapped. It feels kind of empty in here without Paul to be shaking his head or like gagging or something at the mention of her name. It's strange. But yeah, no, that I haven't gotten into that one yet too much, but I've flipped through it and it still looks like it's going to have a lot of action in it with Storm's teenage daughter. Apparently she's doing something her mother doesn't like with Shogo, and I'll find out what that is. Hawkeye, which I've into Clint losing his hearing and a sort of way. So, yeah, Hawkeye's very good. Definitely read Hawkeye, but that's all I have this week. Don't do drugs.
I completely forgot about that. I completely forgot about Hawkeye. I was going to see if they had any more copies of that, because it's going to be one of those issues where, it's going to be a sure thing for the Eisners next year, because, it's a sign language issue and stuff. And there's only a few more left. I think it ends at 22, so enjoy it while you can.
It's looking great.
So
really? I am cursed. Damn it. Maybe it's because I haven't been talking about this series for like weeks.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to, because I think they've had like 3 issues in the last 6 or 7 months. There's just been delays on delays.
Maybe. It's still a bummer, though.
Yeah, definitely. So my other comics segment from this week, I'm picked up Baltimore Witch of Harju. I've been kind of eyeing the Baltimore series for a while and just never had a right time to pick it up, so I decided to give it a try and see if I can jump in. Dayman #4. This is a kind of like a mob vampire story from Boom, and this one's very sporadic too. I think the #1 issue debuted right before last year's Comic-Con, so it's been, slow but worth it. It's really good because it deals with, they call them daemons. So each vampire family has one human that kind of handles their business as their messenger, also their like enforcer, and it follows him around, and it's pretty fun. There's a new creator-owned from Rick Remender called Low. All his stuff, it always like sounds really awesome, and then I read it and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. His stuff I haven't liked a lot of the stuff that he does, but I'll give it a try. I like Black Science, so we'll see how this goes. As I mentioned before, Sandman Overture. We finally get the conclusion to The Wake, which I just discovered apparently Sean Murphy broke his hand or something like that, so he had to have help with the pencils, and that's why it was a little late coming. So hopefully he gets better soon. As you're talking about Saga, so good. The whole Marco and Alana relationship, it's just like a slow-moving train wreck that you're watching, and just you want to yell at them like, no, don't do it. And and also from last week, Wonder Woman, which is just, it's almost going to be at an end, and it's a real bummer. And this issue was really interesting because basically the whole thing, she's been fighting with this god called the Firstborn, who's the firstborn son of Zeus, who's taken over Olympus, and so they're going to have a big battle. And Wonder Woman actually gets stabbed fatally, but of course they leave it on a cliffhanger. But the kid that's been in this, the baby that they've all been trying to protect, he finally like manifests some sort of power and does something to which, if they go where they think they're going with this, it'll be kind of crazy, and probably the craziest thing they've done with a big three character, which is kind of what they're doing with Wonder Woman. I mean, they made her the God of War, they made her the Queen of I don't know what their island, I can't remember what their island's called off the top of my head, but anyways, great series. If anybody, yeah, there you go, yeah. Great series. Everybody should be reading it. Yeah. So those were my comics for the week. So this week, obviously the weekend, we had the San Diego Comic-Con. Sarah, was there any big news? I kind of wrote down like the stuff that popped out at me, but is there anything that was significant to you? Any big news from there?
Well, I don't think so. I just learned today that there was apparently a pretty significant sexual assault that's getting blown up in the media that occurred at Comic-Con. So it was a teenage girl, and it's really horrible. And I can't believe I just heard about it today. But a big con like that, of course, so many things go unreported. I figure a couple things actually make it into the news, and I don't know, feel very bad for that person. Our thoughts are definitely with her, and we hope she's going to be okay. Aside from that, Wonder Woman's heels, I think, were the big thing that caught my eye, other than Daniel Radcliffe shenanigans. But yeah, just I'm sure it's been a few days, and social media being what it is, people have been blowing up over all the news, and everybody has their opinion. And my favorite was a little article that I read citing with imagery all of Wonder Woman's not all of them, but a wide range of Wonder Woman's costumes over the year, and essentially making the point that it's not out of character for her to wear heels many occasions from the Golden Age up until modern. What is the problem is Hollywood's idea of how women should be represented in an action film, even if they're Wonder Woman. And putting her in wedge heels just at the end of the day does not make sense, other than we felt she needed a lift and her butt would look better or something. So I've got to say I'm not loving that. But it doesn't sound like they're doing very well by her in this movie, period. So I guess we'll see.
Like I've said many times in the past, I have little to no faith that the director and writer of Sucker Punch can do justice to having a strong female character in a film. Besides the heels, though, I think the Wonder Woman costume is all right, and I like that
The
they
rest
gave
of
her a
it's
sword.
great. Oh
I
yeah.
like.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I like the
It's
swords.
wonderful.
Okay, so some of mine. Let's see, we have. I don't know. Do you ever watch like the DC animated stuff, the movies that they've been putting out over the last few years?
I don't so much. Haven't had cable at the training commands where I've been. I suppose that's no excuse for not finding it online, but oh well.
Yeah. So
What did they put out?
well, they announced that Bruce Timm is going to come back and do and direct and maybe write one of them. Kind of like an original concept too, not something. Didn't sound like it was based on anything. So that's super exciting because he retired from DC animation a couple years ago, and it has not been good. Not
Oh
been
my
good at all.
gosh.
So hopefully this is not just a one-off and he's back on at least having some involvement, because yeah, the last few have been just, it's been okay, but that's about it. The next one is we finally
He's
got
taken a leaf out of Miyazaki's book and fake unretiring.
yeah, there we go. So the next bit, we finally got the official announcement for the Star Wars comics from Marvel Comics, and it's pretty great. Like, they got some good creative teams. Let me just pull this up here. So these are going to take place in between 4 and 5, which is kind of where the current ongoing's been taking place. And they didn't announce much in the way of plot, or anything, but they said they announced the titles. So we're going to get Star Wars, which will be the main ongoing, from Jason Aaron and John Cassaday, which awesome. Then we get Star Wars Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca. And then there's going to be a 5-issue miniseries for Princess Leia by Mark Waid and Terry Dodson. All of those writers handling Star Wars sound awesome to me. Have you followed any of the Star Wars comics before or anything like that?
Not in comics, no, and honestly not since I was a little kid, since I think like a lot of people growing up with the episodes 1, 2, and 3 kind of turned me off of the franchise, which is a pity. But no, with the inclusion of Lupita Nyong'o in the new movies, and it sounds, yeah, no, I did hear about the Princess Leia thing, and I'm really excited because she might be the only female character the Star Wars franchise has ever done well and accurately, even disregarding the slave costume. So, yeah, no, looking forward to that.
Cool. Okay, so the next one, yeah, but I'm stoked on new Star Wars series. I'm gonna try out all of them. The Dark Horse one, the last ongoing, was decent, but like it fell off after a little while and kind of like went off on weird tangents. This next one's big news, not so much for you, but for Paul and I. Comixology announced that they're doing DRM-free backups of comic books from certain publishers. So I think like Dynamite and Image and a couple of the smaller ones. So you can go there and actually download your comics now, unrestricted, which is pretty huge because, you know, Comixology and the publishers have been locking that down for a long time. And this is definitely a shift, and I think the other ones will soon follow through, kind of like everybody did, you know, after Amazon went DRM free with music, and then iTunes followed through, and now, you know, if you have music on a lockdown that you're going to download, people just won't buy it. So hopefully this is a start of a new trend. Have you done much digital reading lately?
Looks like there was something good about Amazon buying it, huh? Or, no, I don't usually read a lot digitally. My wife has a couple books on her Kindle, but aside from that, I utilize the library, being a library fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I found like I've been trying to, keep because I read some on digital, some on, I buy the comics, but as I read more and more physical comics end up in my collection, and I buy less on digital. But it's really taken up a lot of space. I gotta like convert a few more of them over.
That's how they get
Uh,
you.
yeah, no, it is.
Stuff back.
The next bit of news. This one's really exciting. Um, Dark Horse announced a new creator-owned called Descender by Jeff Lemire writing and Dustin Nguyen on art. And this is great because I've loved all of Jeff Lemire's creator-owned, and I don't think he's done anything where he's not the main artist on it. So that's pretty cool. And Dustin Nguyen, it's awesome. Anytime, I pretty much only seen his Batman stuff, but all of that is amazing. And I'm hoping that still doesn't prevent him from doing a couple more Batman Eternal issues, because those are usually the highlights of that run. Did you read about this at all?
He had a really good run on the Authority once upon a time when they were being crappily written by Mark Millar, and then again for the Revolutions arc where it was very Jenny Quantum centric, which, he loves teen superheroes, so that was very much his thing. I really enjoyed that. But no, I haven't really been keeping much up with his stuff lately, which is a shame. I need to get back on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just had a couple like things in Batman lately, and not much else. I think he's done some variants and stuff, and he loves
Batman
like teen
Eternal,
superheroes.
right?
Yeah. So this is going to be.
I was expecting them to publicize the stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I was
go ahead.
expecting them to publicize the stuff more because I haven't heard anything about what her arc in Batman Eternal other than her mom's evil, and I was really excited. I was like, oh, it's going to be Stephanie. She's going to have a plot or a subplot in this series. It's going to be drawn by Dustin Lin. It's going to be great, but I haven't heard anything. So I guess we'll see when it comes out published, or I mean, in a trade.
I think they're kind of setting her up for like the latter half of the story, because she's still kind of on her own little thing, not really connected with everything else that's going on. Hopefully they do, because when she is in the issue, they've been really good. They're handling that story really well. But right now, there's like 10 different things going on in that series. But yeah, I feel like she's going to have a big role later in the series. But this story is Descender from Dark Horse. It's a universe where all androids have been outlawed and bounty hunters lurk on every planet, and it focuses on one young robot's life in that world. So you have Dustin Nguyen's wheelhouse with the kids, and this, the cover looks really cool. It looks pretty intriguing, and I will definitely be pulling that. But it's not out till 2015, which I guess it's kind of late in the year now, so that's not surprising. But hopefully it's earlier in the year, because it sounds like a lot of fun. And let's see, next one, Fight Club 2. They're doing the sequel to Fight Club, but as a comic book from Dark Horse. Chuck Palahniuk is coming back to write it, and we find out the reason why Cameron Stewart isn't doing all of Batgirl is because he's the artist on Fight Club. So bummer because he's not on Batgirl, but awesome because he's a great artist, and we get Fight Club from him. So he said it's going to be a kind of both a prequel and a sequel. So I'm pretty timidly excited, because Fight Club's one of my favorite stories, and it's always weird when they go back to his first sequel so many years later that wasn't originally planned. Are you a fan of Fight Club at all?
Oh man, I don't want to slam it because I know that you just said that you are, but no, I saw a little bit of Fight Club, but I haven't read the book and I could never really get into the movie. It seemed like a gratuitous violence power fantasy with some drugstore psychology laced in. That, like I said, I haven't seen the whole thing, and I definitely haven't read the book. So
It was definitely, I think, there was like, it was definitely a film of its time, and you had to be the right age at that time when it came out.
oh,
And
how old
I
are
feel like mostly
you?
male too. Well, no, I'm saying like, I was in high school, or not like late middle school, high school when it came out, but it's definitely
Yeah.
meets a like goes to a certain audience. And I feel like if that movie came out now, it wouldn't do near. I mean, actually, it didn't do that well when it came out. It was the DVD sales that made it famous. But I feel like if it came out at any other time, probably wouldn't have done that great. And the last bit of news that popped out, well, not really news, and this wasn't really Comic-Con, but it happened during it. Some test footage leaked out of Ryan Reynolds voicing Deadpool over like a CG action sequence. Did you see this at all?
I saw that at work today because we were very busy, obviously, that it looked really, really good. It was like Final Fantasy Advent Children level art when that movie first came out. Like, that was how much this wowed me. I really enjoyed it.
I'm
How about
at
you?
this. Yeah, it was pretty great, and I feel like Ryan Reynolds was born to play that guy, and he got shafted with X-Men Origins Wolverine, but
Hmm.
I feel like at this point,
Oh, so
so in the
bad.
so in the community, I had to remove 6 or 7 duplicates of people posting this video, like, and it's everywhere on there. People are excited. At this point, if I think Fox still owns the rights, if they don't put out this movie, they're idiots. Um, they just need to do it.
Oh, they've got to do it. They've got to do it.
It's ridiculous, and maybe they were because there was yeah. Anyways, they need to do it because I feel like somebody said, oh, it was Liefeld, I think, because he said that
What?
there's an well, I'm saying like because Liefeld had been in the talks with somebody because he was consulting or I don't know something to where there's an X-Force movie somewhere or the starts of an
Oh,
X-Force
no, I
movie.
know because Mark Millar is consulting on it, and Rob Liefeld read the script and liked it, which is what instantly got me from excited about the movie to completely turned off. But I don't know how involved he is in the Deadpool stuff. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, as long I was gonna say as long as they put Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, it has to be at least decent. But look at Wolverine. But anyways, bottom line, they need to do it. It needs to happen. Get on it, Fox. Don't ruin
Well,
this.
at this point, I would like to see a movie set in the X background, basically, that is not Wolverine and his background dancers, the X-Men. And it seems like a Deadpool movie might just give us that to break out of that mold. I mean, animated or live action, Deadpool's pretty much going to dominate every movie he's in, which is why I think they just wrote him out gratuitously in the Wolverine Origins, whatever cluster crack movie. But yeah, I'm so excited about this. It's going to be great. Hugh Jackman's not going to be anywhere. I just know it.
I don't know. I think it will be hard for them to pass up throwing in Wolverine at some point in a Deadpool movie because they do have a lot of
Uh,
intersex in the comics and stuff. So I don't think they'll be able to resist at least a cameo or something.
if they're smart, they should throw in Cable to tease for the X-Force movie.
If they were smart. So I think that does it for news unless you got anything else.
I am not sure that I do.
All right.
Sorry. I guess it's
No.
kind of a short week this week in spite of Comic-Con.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of like huge earth-shattering announcements at Comic-Con, and there's been a lot of words have been typed on blogs and things about that fact that it wasn't a huge con. There's still some great news, but yeah, nothing crazy, no huge movie. They announced some sequels and stuff, but ones that people were expecting, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2
Mhm.
and some other stuff, but no, there was no Batman versus Superman reveal or Age of Ultron reveal that got people, really excited.
Yeah, they already blew the Sam Wilson as Captain America thing a few weeks ago. It seems like they should have held on to that until Comic-Con, but I guess they couldn't pass up a spot on popular nighttime TV.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess they figure I feel like for that one, they're trying to get that non-comic book reader audience to come and buy a few issues.
Yeah. Well, that's so important too. So there you go.
Yep. So that about does it for our comic stuff. We are more than our comics. So what other media have you been consuming this week, Sarah?
Well, again, in addition to playing an amount of Ingress that is unhealthy for my data plan, I have been still trudging my way through the Percy Jackson Heroes of Olympus series, which has become incredibly painful as I've reached the third book in the series, The Mark of Athena, because apparently Rick Riordan doesn't know how to write female characters, and he does not know how to write romance at all. He's got a set of 7 kids, 4 boys and 3 girls. 3 sets of 1 boy and 1 girl are couples, and then there's this other guy. Just down to earth. At one point, she censors herself in her mind, in her narrative, for being too philosophical, and Percy wouldn't like that because it would bore him. And it's like, what the hell has happened to this character? And it's just like, it's badly written teen romance. There are no teenagers I know that act as sappy and ridiculous as these 3 couples do. It's all completely contrived. Most of the romantic dialogue is at the intelligence level of, I love you, and I'll never leave you, or I don't know what I would do without you, or I'll never leave you again. These are 16-year-olds, and they've been dating for a few months, and it's just, I mean, the substance is not there for them to be acting this way around each other, and it's so poorly written, and it's doing horrible things to the characterization, because I don't want to be in these people's heads. I'm like, oh my god, can somebody break up? It's at the point where, like, I mean, Michelle, my wife, calls it, like, aggressively heterosexual, but honestly, it's true, because even the side characters, like the comic relief characters, are hooking up with other comic relief characters of the same sex. It's like, who is still alive and not in a relationship? They're going to get together for no reason. There's like a Cyclops and a Harpy that get together. There's a Satyr and a Wind Spirit, and nobody cares about these characters in the long run, but they're sure as hell dating. Meanwhile, there's spoilers. There's 1 gay kid. It's revealed in like the 4th book, which I'm about to get to. It's the only thing that's keeping me going at this point. And he's alone, of course, forever alone, always alone, because Riordan wants to write about all kinds of middle schoolers, but apparently he just can't commit. So yeah, I'm determined to get through this series, not only because the last book in it is coming out in October, but because it's a point of pride that it's not easy at this point. So Justin, what about you?
Well, I just wanted to mention that I started the 4th book, The House of Hades, back in October of last year, and I am about 2/3 of the way done, I think. So yeah, eventually I'll finish it, but I keep finding excuses to read something else instead.
Right. There's so much other stuff, and it's like Riordan dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But you know about Nico, right? Like, that's the big thing that everybody blew up about. Yeah.
Yep, the little loner, depressed kid. Of course, he's the gay one.
Poor gay baby. I just want to invite him to our house, and my wife and I can pour him tea and talk about his feelings and mentor him. And and be that weird lesbian couple. But no, sorry. Digress. But what have
So
you been up to?
I have been playing the Destiny, or well, not anymore, but Destiny, which is a game coming out in September. It's from the original makers of Halo, Bungie Studio. They're coming out with this basically a first-person shooter mixed with World of Warcraft. So they opened up a beta this weekend, and I was on vacation, so I could only play it for one day, but I probably put in like 5 or 6 hours straight. Really fun. It kind of it's kind of a weird match of genres, and I've been reading online that people that only play first-person shooters are kind of confused, and people that only play, MMORPGs weren't really comfortable with the first-person stuff. But for somebody like me that's played them both, I loved it, and it was perfect. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun when it comes out, and that will definitely be eaten into my comic reading time come September. So if they open it up again, I recommend everybody try it out. Yeah, a lot of fun. But yeah, I was on vacation for a lot of the past week, so I didn't have too much time to do other stuff. But I got some
Very
Destiny,
cool.
and that was cool. So that about does it for tonight. Hopefully, well, yeah, like I said, Paul and Aaron are real busy, so we'll see if they can sneak in a little bit of time for us. If not, Sarah and I will hold down the fort, and we will be back next week with some more comic books. You can find links to everywhere to find us and all of our episodes on cbcpodcast.tumblr.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/comicbookcommunicast. Our audio version is on iTunes and RSS. You can find the links to that on the Tumblr page. And we also appreciate any shares and likes on social networks. Thanks, everyone, and have a good night.
Night.